Hello and welcome back to Absurdland. These old photos may seem innocent, but their hidden stories reveal a much darker truth. Eerie coincidences, forgotten tragedies, prepare for a shocking journey. If you enjoy my videos, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. In 1944, Soviet soldiers inspect a pile of human ashes at Majdanek concentration camp. The Nazis tried to destroy evidence of mass murder, but traces like this remained. This haunting photograph captures a moment from the Nanking Massacre, one of the darkest chapters of World War II. In December 1937, Japanese forces invaded the Chinese city of Nanking, unleashing weeks of unimaginable brutality. Tens of thousands of civilians and prisoners of war were slaughtered, while countless others suffered horrific atrocities. This photo is also a moment from the Nanking Massacre. Many women, including young girls and the elderly, were subjected to unimaginable brutality at the hands of soldiers. I don't even want to go into detail. The photo says it all. This photo shows Japanese soldiers using Sikh prisoners of the British Indian Army for target practice during World War II. The prisoners were captured during the occupation of Malaya or Singapore. The photo was found by British troops in 1945. None of the prisoners survived. At Mauthausen's Stairway of Death, prisoners were forced to carry heavy stones up the steps repeatedly. Collapse often meant execution. It was a Tier 3 camp for those the Nazis saw as the most undesirable, where inmates were literally worked to death. Women and weaker prisoners were killed sooner, seen as less useful for labor. In 1945, German women were forced to repave streets in Prague. One has tar on her face, the other a swastika painted on her back. Across Europe, women accused of ties with Germans were often publicly humiliated without trial. Bergen-Belsen, Germany, survivors and liberators watching the camp burning after liberation, May 1945. British soldiers hung a photograph of Hitler on Barrack 44 before setting it on fire. He was already dead and they were alive. A small victory. In August 1945 in Leipzig, Soviet soldiers are seen harassing a German woman in Soviet-occupied East Germany. At the end of the war, millions of civilians suffered abuses and countless women found themselves vulnerable under the occupation forces. The Nazis believed they could identify Jewish people through facial measurements, like nose shape or mustache width. Of course, this was absolute nonsense, but they believed in this method. Even Auschwitz guards needed a break. In captured photos, they looked like carefree summer camp staff, laughing, relaxing, yet their job was mass murder. The most chilling part? These moments of leisure came just before or after unimaginable horrors. Heartbreaking photo of Jewish children led to their deaths in Auschwitz gas chambers. Upon arrival, children were often separated from their families and sent directly to the gas chambers, falsely told they were going for a shower. Around 1.5 million children were murdered during the Holocaust. Photo of Jews accused of being involved with the NKVD before being massacred by Lithuanian paramilitaries and German soldiers in Lietuvos garage, June 1941. This heartbreaking photo shows a severely disabled girl, Tomoko, and her caring mother. She was a victim of Minamata disease, caused by decades of mercury pollution from a Japanese factory. The Chiso Corporation denied responsibility while pouring toxins into the sea. The image is both beautiful and brutal, the power of love and the price of corporate crime. Photo of Lavrentiy Beria holding Joseph Stalin's daughter Svetlana, with Stalin and Nestor Lakoba in the background. Beria was known for being a murderer and while leading the NKVD, 1931. 1910. New York City Mayor William J. Gaynor, just seconds after surviving an assassination attempt. He was shot in the neck by a disgruntled former dock night watchman who had been fired from his job. Remarkably, the 61-year-old mayor recovered from his wounds and continued to serve for another 3 years. The remains of Serbs killed during World War I were exhumed in Sredica in 1926. An estimated 2,000 to 3,000 Serbs were massacred by Bulgarian occupation forces in 1916 during the occupation of the region. This event is a part of the wider atrocities committed during the war. I was the executioner of Poles at Bayer's factory in 1939. German concentration camp commandant Adolf Wilhelms forced to hold a sign before his execution in Poland, April 1945. On April 17, 1942, in North Cheam, Surrey, people line up outside a butcher shop, not for beef or pork, but for horse meat. No ration coupons required. In war-ravaged Britain, real meat is a luxury, and hunger doesn't allow for pickiness. With ration books limiting every meal, the chance to buy any flesh, even horse, is too good to pass up. Stanisław Swieniewicz, a Polish soldier who was an eyewitness to the Katyn massacre, testifying, wearing a mask, to a U.S. House committee. After the investigation, the committee determined that it was the Soviet NKVD responsible for the crime, 1952. This photo, taken in 1963, shows civil rights activists John Salter, Joan Trumpauer, and Ann Moody calmly enduring harassment at a segregated Woolworth's lunch counter in Jackson, Mississippi. As they sat at the whites-only counter, they were doused with ketchup, sugar, and mustard by an angry crowd. Some even lit cigarettes and pressed them against their skin. All three were connected to Tougaloo College, a historically black institution central to Mississippi's civil rights movement. 1912, Times Square, New York. A man writes the latest updates about the Titanic tragedy on a chalkboard outside a newspaper office. Passers-by know nothing of the details yet, but one word, Titanic, is enough to stop them in their tracks. The world's largest ship has sunk. In this moment, no one can yet grasp the true scale of the human catastrophe hidden behind those lines of text. A newly liberated woman from Bergen-Belsen in 1945 is dusted with DDT powder to treat lice that spread typhus, a deadly disease. The camp, liberated by British forces, was in devastating condition, with thousands dead from starvation and disease. The use of DDT marked one of the first attempts to combat lice infestations among survivors. Serbian paramilitary commander Ratko Mladic distributes food to Bosnian women. While journalists were taking this photo of him, his men were slaughtering 8,000 men and boys, relatives of those same women. Srebrenica, July 1995. A Cossack policeman, to the amusement of Hungarian soldiers, slashes a captured Soviet partisan with a saber. Occupied Ukraine, SSR, September 1941. This image from the 1930s depicts an aerial artist performing the so-called Iron Jaw act. The performer bites down on a special clamp, which is used to lift them into the air. Sometimes a motor would spin them high above the ground, while other times they wore wings to mimic the movements of a butterfly. This dangerous and spectacular stunt required immense strength and concentration, leaving the audience breathless as they watched the daring performance. In this strange 1970s photo, darkly dressed figures are gathered around a car, seemingly performing some unknown ritual. Though often dated to the 1970s, its origin remains unclear. It's more likely a later creation, reflecting the atmosphere of the 1980s satanic panic, a time when people suspected hidden cults and rituals everywhere. Throughout the USS Triton's secret mission to circumnavigate the world submerged, the only unauthorized individual to spot the submarine during those 60 days was a Filipino man on his canoe who noticed its periscope. April 1st, 1960. Harold Agnew, an American physicist, is pictured gripping the core of the Fat Man atomic bomb, the weapon used in the bombing of Nagasaki in 1945. The blast instantly killed around 80,000 people, but the effects didn't end there. Many more suffered and died from radiation sickness and leukemia in the years that followed. The Fat Man remains a chilling symbol of the destructive power of nuclear weapons and their long-lasting impact on humanity. George Metesky, bomber who terrorized New York City from the 1940s to 1957, planted 33 bombs. He was found legally insane and committed to a state mental hospital. View from the Statue of Liberty's torch, something no visitor has seen since 1916. That year, German saboteurs caused a massive explosion known as the Black Tom incident, damaging the statue. The blast shattered windows in Times Square and was felt as far as Philadelphia, one of the largest non-nuclear explosions in history. Public opinion shifted sharply against Germany, and less than a year later, the U.S. entered World War I. Replica dog tags of every soldier who never made it back from Vietnam. More than 12,000 dog tags symbolize those killed in action, many of whom never had their remains returned to their families. A powerful reminder of the brutal cost of the war. Rudolf Hess in 1986, alone in Spandau Prison, where he spent over 20 years as the sole inmate of a high-security facility. Once the third most powerful man in Nazi Germany and the last surviving member of Hitler's cabinet, Hess became paranoid, fearing his food was poisoned. He died at 93, officially by suicide, though the circumstances remain disputed. His grave was later removed to prevent extremist glorification. American soldiers prepared German General Anton Dostler for execution by firing squad after he was found guilty of executing American prisoners in Italy, 1945. America's first black female postal worker, Mary Fields, delivered mail through the Wild West with a rifle over her shoulder and zero fear. Born into slavery, she landed in Montana via a convent job, though she preferred saloons to sermons, cigars to silence. At 60, she took on a brutal mail route, trekking hundreds of miles weekly, even in snowshoes, armed and unshakable. In Cascade, she became a local legend. Free meals, her own seat at the bar, and when her house burned down, the town built her a new one. The 1946 Hilo tsunami was triggered by an earthquake off the coast of Alaska. The waves reached over 9 meters, devastating the coastal areas of Hilo and claiming many lives. This event led to the development of modern tsunami warning systems. This weapon was invented for hunting in the water, but it was soon banned due to inefficiency. 1800s. Wonder why? No Germans, a Czech man in his restaurant in Massachusetts after Germany occupied the rest of Czechoslovakia, March 1939. In 1848, this was the first boundary marker placed after the Mexican-American War. A fence was built around it to protect it from locals who opposed the new border after Mexico lost nearly half its territory. Spanish archaeologist Manuel Esteve, wearing a Corinthian helmet he found it in Jerez, Spain, 1938. German Chancellor Adolf Hitler announces Germany's resignation from the League of Nations in a radio address to the German people. This was followed by a referendum with the majority approving. October 1933.
Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.